Christian, welcome to Music Podcast Rewinding from Montenegro. I'm glad to have you. First, I want to ask you, you did your solo work recently. How you decided to go solo?
Well, it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Not solo so much, but
Yeah.
I've been wanting to do an acoustic album for a long time. And I just didn't feel like I had gotten the chance to do it with my old band. You know, we had some songs and stuff, but not whole albums. And I wanted something that's always been in the back of my head. You know, I'm a songwriter. I love to play and write on acoustic guitar. And when Jeff Lanier from Svjetskih Records presented me with the you know, the idea of making an acoustic album, fully acoustic, and you know, having it be a very stripped down kind of album, I thought the idea was great. So I you know, naturally went for it, and very grateful for having been, you know, motivated to do something like that, because it's something that I've always wanted to do, but just didn't have the right time to do it, or it wasn't the right time in my life to do it yet. You know, I still didn't feel I had the things I needed to say, perhaps. I don't know. Music is a mystery, you know. It's a mystery just as much as the mind is a mystery, because music comes from the mind. And you know, I know it's something I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
But why it took me so long, I don't know.
I ask a lot of musicians, was it hard to move away from the old successful band and start like a new start under your name, and to people know that you're now like you and your band?
It was a little bit worrisome, you know, because there's a lot of risk that goes along with it. And I did have a lot of concern at first, and I was nervous about it. I didn't know how people would digest it, or how much they would really like it. But with that also came along a new freedom, you know, a newfound freedom to finally be able to do things again how I felt they needed to be, you know. As a songwriter, it's amazing working with people that see the same vision, or that see the similar things, but come from different places. But it's extremely complicated when you're trying to make something and you're being tugged into different directions, and some people think it should be the other way, and some people think it should be the other way. So for me, there was this great freedom in, you know, letting go of any niche or anything that I had been tied to, and then just doing something new that's based on music and on the song, you know. And that's really what kind of let me go of the fear a little bit, is realizing I could finally write songs that I really feel 100% about, you know. And, you know, in the beginning of the band, when I was in the band in the beginning, I got to do that. I got to write songs that I felt were really, really powerful. And then as we changed members and stuff like that, you know, we wrote more as a team. But with me doing this album, acoustic album, you know, with very little input, you know, I got to work with some amazing people, but there wasn't like song changing and changing chords and changing this and changing that. I got to do something that I really felt was good, that felt really good to me. And that I could honestly say, you know, not as a promotional bait, but I can honestly say it's an album that if you like acoustic music, this is probably an album that you're probably going to listen to. Right. It's something that will probably be in your listening library. It could be for your entire lifetime if you really like acoustic music, you know. Whereas with my band before, you know, I could say, well, if you like heavy music, you might like this, you know?
Mm.
Well, I feel really confident about what I did acoustically, and hopefully I'll get to do other heavy things that I'm as confident about.
Yeah. And when we spoke about it, this album is acoustic, and you said, I read somewhere that it's more about feeling rather than situation. But when you approach to this acoustic, and when you write the songs about your feelings, you and other artists, do you think about that, how you presented that to audience that you know, and how would audience would feel about it, or you just expressing your feelings no matter what the audience will tell and feel about it?
On this acoustic album, I really did something that I could say, this is really good, you know?
Mm.
When you begin to focus on too many outside things, like what do I think about it, and what would he think about it, and what would he think about it, you usually wind up you usually wind up making nobody 100% happy.
Mm.
You know, now, you know, I could argue I'm not 100% happy with my album, but I'm in the 90s. I'm like 90% happy with my album. That's, for a musician to be able to say that, is, at least for a realistic, you know, self-critiquing musician. All good musicians critique themselves the hardest first,
Yeah.
and then, you know, they other people critique them, obviously. But you know, I feel really strongly about it. Whereas before, I might have said, yeah, I like it, it's great, we did something great, but I was saying it more as a team effort. You know, I didn't want
Yeah.
to put my negativity on things people put a lot of hard work in and
Mm.
stuff like that. But you know, it was, for me, it was the growth, man. You know, I had to grow as a musician, and I think that's the fun part of being a musician, is accepting growth and challenging
Yeah.
yourself.
Because I don't underestimate the band, you know, but audience, when follow one band, you expecting that, you know, like heavy music, rock music, that's it, from album to album. And when you move away a little bit from that path, they will criticize you. So the band always stick to that path. And you as a artist, new artist, you find different approach, and you open yourself to a lot of people that would now say, "Oh, this is Christian that we don't know from early
Mm-hmm.
days," and that's at least brave move from you.
Yeah, there was always a lot of risk. You know,
Yeah.
I realized that I was making an album not for everyone. You know, if you don't like acoustic music,
Yeah.
you know, this is probably not for you. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not the kind of person that's, you know, into multi-genre music, it might not be for you. If you're only into like punk rock, obviously this is not for you. If you're only into extreme metal, you know, this is not for you.
Right.
And I always realized that, and I think that was part of the thing that caused some fear and some concern was, you know, I'm not making an album for everyone. How many people will not like it? You know, that was always my fear.
Yeah. And you did some great covers. One of my favorites is Life of Ebony, great song. Weeds. How you choose those songs?
Just a fan of music. I'm just a fan of music, and I love those songs. And three completely different artists from different genres, from different times, which was the most important thing for me to show. Music is music, you know. To show a song, a great song is a great song. It could be arranged. The instrumentation could be anything, you know. But if it's a great song, that you'll be able to do that with it. You'll be able to always take it, perform it in a different genre with a different style, and it would still be a great song.
Yeah.
And that's and it takes great artists, obviously, that write great music to be able to do things like that with songs. And obviously Pink Floyd, amazing, you know.
Yeah.
changing. I mean, they were culture changing band. Same with Post Malone and Life of Agony too. A lot of people may have not heard of Life of Agony because they were mostly in New York. They were considered a hardcore band, which in my mind, it doesn't do them any justice because they were really amazing songwriters that were rock, metal, hardcore, a little bit of everything. And they were just great songwriters that really knew how to craft feelings and a message into a song. And Weeds had that very same kind of sentiment that the whole album has, which is, you know, having gone through a very painful past and having to accept that you're moving forward and that this forward movement could be very painful. And there is a lot of, let's say, mourning that you have to do for all the things you have to let go within yourself. I'm not even talking about another person. And then with that comes, if you're going through separation, you know, and especially the separation that I went through that involved a kid, you know, it was extremely complicated. And when you have a child and going through a separation, especially when you know, almost have like a dispute over the custody of the child, it becomes very combative and hurtful. And, you know, it really caused a lot, it stirred a lot of emotions in me. Let's be honest, you know, and it stirred a lot of emotions. The fact that I also had left the band, left Ill Nino, went through a separation. It was just a big realization of, you know, I'm not feeling like I'm moving in the right direction in the position that I was in, you know, in my love life and also in my business life and music. So that song Weeds kind of has that same feeling with the lyrics, you know, having to move past something, realizing that you're not in the same place you were before, and the relationship you had with this person has either gone sour or the weeds have grown where the sun once shone. And that's the whole album kind of has that vibe.
Yeah. And when we're speaking about growing, I read that you are from Brazil, but you moved to Venezuela and then to States. And when we speak about Brazil, we got to mention also the Max Cavalera and Sepultura. I read there his book, and when we're speaking about growing in Brazil and how difficult it is to band from Latin America breakthrough, they have lucky you also. But what you think about whole that rock and roll genre in Latin America? How really is difficult for bands to break through even there, not to mention the rest of the world?
Yeah. I mean, for an English speaking rock band to break through in Latin America is very tough. Those countries have, you know, rock bands that are all Spanish speaking rock bands that have all lyrics in Spanish that do very well. But it is very tough if you're trying to break into the English speaking market being in South America. And, you know, I mean, there's not many bands that really got to do it, but, you know, obviously that's why a lot of people move to the US if they're like a musician, you know, and they're trying to play music. But for me, to be honest, the Sepultura Roots album was a life-affirming, life-changing moment where I realized, whoa, heavy music and culture, how fucking cool is that? You know, and you could argue that bands like, you know, Iron Maiden and stuff like that have a pirate culture, you know, in their music, because their music is very, you know, swashbuckle kind of thing. And even in Irish music, you hear it a lot, and especially from the UK, you hear the swashbuckle kind of vibe in metal and in punk a lot.
Yeah.
And that's also culture, you know, even though it isn't, let's say, a tied just to one country. You know, it's something that came out of the culture, how people lived, how they interacted, how the evolution of society went. So for us, it helped us realize, man, you know, culture and music is something cool. And if anything, it showed me you're a unique person. And one of the things that makes you most unique is how is your culture sculpted? You know, a lot of people may have similar cultures, but a lot of people grow individually in their own ways within their culture. So to have, you know, seen Sepultura do it, you know, and do it tastefully and do it so awesome with a lot of flavor, and it was cool and it was fresh and there was nothing cheesy about it. It was life affirming, you know. It showed me, hey man, as a South American, you could play your own kind of metal, you know. You don't have to play like exactly like the way everybody's been doing it.
Right, right. And when we speaking about unique stuff in music with your old band and genre that the public puts you in, that's new metal. Could you tell me how you see that period and when you first felt that success that you have and become popular?
That's the kids are playing over there.
No problem.
Hopefully it's not too loud.
No, no, it's
Um,
great.
well, when I first felt we got really good success, when we started getting really good tours, like when you know, my first big couple of tours that I went on were really the things that made me realize, wow, we're doing well. You know, people really like these songs, and that's the moment that helps you realize as a musician that you're connecting with people. You know, it's seeing a lot of people come to your shows and seeing a lot of people relate to the music and kind of put the music into their own lives, and then have a different perspective on life because of, you know, sharing music with them. But yeah, it was just getting the big tours, like the Ozfest was you know, a big turning point for us, for me as a musician. The Jägermeister tour was a big turning point for me as a musician. And I was still learning, you know. I was still a young musician, so I was still learning how to sing without hurting myself, you know, how to not to party too much at night, you know, how to even though I still did it.
Yeah, but that was a revolutionary genre, and some great bands came from it. What you think that would be reference points from that genre, especially what it bring to the world in music and social and politically aspects?
What did we bring, or what did another band bring?
You and the whole genre, and from that years when you toured and became famous.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Like, what did the new metal genre
Yeah,
do
yeah,
for
basically.
music? Um, I think the new metal genre really was, you know, first we have to acknowledge that Pantera carved the way that way first, you know. Pantera basically set the precedent for, you know, hundreds of thousands of people that liked heavy music, but done differently all over the world. And I think that what metal was able to do, Pantera seemed like it was very personal music. Like there was a sense of struggle in the lyrics, you know, that um, where you can tell the story being told is about someone who has faced obstacles in life, has made decisions that they weren't easy to make, and perhaps has felt victim to life in some kind of way, and perhaps has um, still has a lot to learn. And I think that new metal kept going that way, just faster and you know, more direct at those kinds of feelings. there was experimental in the sound of metal, but outside of that, I think what it brought to music was an awareness of emotions that perhaps had been, completely blocked out before. When you hear Damage Incorporated, I mean, you could argue, yes, there are he wrote those things probably thinking, oh, I'm saying these things in my own way about my own feelings like this. But nu metal kind of just started speaking about the feeling, how I feel, why do I feel like this? What has society done to me? And I think that Pantera carved that first, and then nu metal just kind of kept going faster. Not that they didn't outdo Pantera, but everybody kept trying to dig for that. Why do I feel this? Who are we in society? That's the thing that I think allowed metal to go in that direction, and perhaps nu metal to kind of define that feeling is who are we in society? That feeling of disconnect. Because the fan bases had become massive at that point. There was a lot of lovers of metal music, but nobody had yet realized that we were still, rebels, outcasts in society. And nu metal, it addressed that. It addressed how metalheads felt as outcasts in society.
And do you see some continuation of that genre? And do you see the future, how that expressions would shape the music and metal especially?
Absolutely.
Or do you think that genre is over, that years passed, and that's it?
No. Nu metal wasn't insignificant. And I say that because I was there for the evolution of how it happened. I knew where I came from, and I knew what it was that made me pay attention to it. And it's not something that was insignificant, because it's, one could say, oh, a band like Primus was insignificant to nu metal. But without a band like Primus, nu metal probably wouldn't even exist. Because the halftime, breakdowns like that you hear in My Name Is Mud, and like the halftime breakdowns that you hear in Jerry Was a Race Car Driver, and the things you hear like on Frizzle Fry, the kind of heavy stuff you hear on Frizzle Fry, is where bands like Korn kind of took it and went a different direction with it, but they came from that. It was Les Claypool and Larry Lalonde and forgot the drummer's name, but it was those three guys that literally. What was that?
Alexander, I don't know the surname.
Yes. I forgot Alexander something.
Yeah.
But it was Primus that actually created that, halftime. And it's something we kind of. I mean, I was a huge Primus fan, and
yeah.
When you hear some of the Primus breakdowns, like in My Name Is Mud, it's the opening riff to How Can I Live. It's just done completely different. I thought about it in different ways, and you regurgitate it in a different way because you're just influenced by it. But, at the end of the day, I don't think any of it was insignificant. And you see it now, in a lot of the modern acts, I guess, or the newer bands were fans of nu metal and have it a little bit more prominently placed in their song structure.